What's your observation of challenges and suggestions on the development of global green shipping?
It is very important that the global community come together for this to come up with global solutions.
Intelligent shipping is also an important part of Singapore maritime decarbonization blueprint.
We are looking at building an efficient and smart port system. It allows ships to clear the port entry with different government agencies as a one-stop.
How does MPA take actions to ensure the smooth flow of maritime logistics supply chain amid this ongoing epidemic?
So on the supply chain and logistics part, it is definitely a global challenge. So it's not for one port to be able to shift the equation or tilt the equation. So what is needed is really a lot more global collaborations.
新加坡港务局在今年公布了2050新加坡海运业去碳化蓝图。就蓝图当中所谈及的清洁可替代能源、无人化、智能化码头、国际航运业的转型发展，以及上海、新加坡航运合作等相关的话题，今天我们特别邀请到了新加坡港务局 MPA 首席执行官 Quah。Hi, Quah. It's nice to have you here with us. Based on your understanding of IMO conventions and the development of global shipping industry, what's your observation of challenges and suggestions on the development of global green shipping?
The first is definitely on technical standards. When you have the future of ship, what is the technical standard for the ship? What's the technical standard for ship-to-ship bunkering of the vehicle, of the vessels? These are all very important elements to take note of. For example, if you were to go into methanol, methane, biofuel, and the future ammonia, how do we ensure the safe fueling of such vessels? So that's one. Second, another challenge will be on fuel availability. How do we work with the fuel company or the energy company to ensure sufficient availability for all the vessels? DNV has come up with a projection that it's going to be a mixture of different types of future fuel, at least until 2050. So we have to make sure that we work with the energy companies to ensure sufficient fuel availability. And lastly, of course, when it comes to future fuel, you need future competency. So talent availability will be another key challenge that we have all to solve. Currently already, around the world, the shortage of LNG competencies is already sort of a big challenge for us. So we will need to look at, in future, should we go into other types of fuel? What are the type of competencies that's needed?
So what's the key strategy, principle, and priority of MPA in terms of green shipping development? Could you give us some examples on specific arrangements and plans?
So actually, we have been on the decarbonization agenda for the past few years, particularly in the last 4 years, we have mapped out decarbonization as one of the key priority for Maritime Singapore. Now, what we've done is that we've gone through a period of setting up the International Advisory Panel, followed by an industry consultation for the past 1-2 years. Within MPA, we've also set up the Sustainability Office to look specifically in this area. And through the past 2-3 years, what we've done is to actually build up and recently launched in February the Maritime Singapore Decarbonization Blueprint 2050. First, on the port side, on port terminal, achieve carbon neutral by 2050s. And this can be achieved in terms of using greener technology, for example, in the prime movers, hydrogen fuel cells, vehicles within the port, as well as for us to look at solar panels and also looking into scope 3 type of work for carbon. And that's one. Second, we are also looking at facilitating a multi-fuel bunkering transition. For example, building either ammonia or hydrogen value chain within the port, as well as building, for example, bunker tankers that allow such refueling to take place. The third element is really on in the area of working with our Singapore Ship Registry and trying to promote more green ships to be taken up. The other key element, of course, the last part is really on our domestic harbour craft. We have more than 2,000 domestic harbour craft in our port waters. So what we want is to gradually move them towards greener fuel as well, with the aim of moving towards biofuel in the transition and in the future, electrification as well of our domestic harbour craft, thus also allowing to reduce our domestic emissions. So that roughly is the plan specifically on what we're going to put in place in terms of green shipping and green green ports moving forward in the next few years, mapping out our plan towards 2050.
Besides the clean and alternative energies, as you just mentioned, intelligent shipping is also an important part of Singapore Maritime Decarbonization Blueprint. So please talk about your understanding and your judgment on the overall trend of intelligent shipping, the existing problems, and the possible future development.
We are building a new Tuas port. The first two berths will be it's already operational, which will handle more than 65 million TEU to be able to be fully automated. Then within the port, we have to look at how to up and accelerate digitalization. We are looking at building an efficient and smart port system. It allows ships to clear the port entry with different government agencies as a one-stop. It has actually already saved up to 100,000 man-hours per year. Our next phase is to look at just-in-time. How do we make the maritime services to be lined up to be just-in-time so that the ships doesn't have to spend much time within the port and are able to leave and enter safely?
What's the plan and strategy of MPA to support the development of intelligent shipping, including smart ports in Singapore?
So what we've done is also looking at mass. For example, we have also sort of dedicated some anchorage space, which will be able to handle some form of automated shipping that's going to come in, which is what we call the autonomous vessels. And with that, it requires quite a number of areas to look at, including, for example, how do we do remote pilotage? How do we ensure that when the ships call on our port, the interface between the smart ship calling on our port as well as the various port terminals, whether it is just using sensoring, whether it is with a few sort of sea crew on board the vessels, how do we make shipping more efficient? So that's the direction that as port terminals, as port operators, we are working on.
So we noticed that Singapore held the Singapore Maritime Week in April this year, in which transformation of growth was a new theme. So what's the result of discussion on the four aspects of innovation, sustainable development, maritime service and talent development? And what's the understanding of MPA on transformation to promote growth?
Growth is a key theme because in terms of when we look at projections on global trade as well as global growth, our region here within Asia, Southeast Asia, is definitely an emerging area of growth. And we expect that to accelerate with the post-pandemic situation when trade starts increasing. We have also signed MOU with Jurong Port, for example, where we look at developing the next generation multi-purpose port because we want to focus on key areas such as automation and mechanization, sustainability and future green fuels, digitalization, as well as safety and security.
How does MPA take actions to ensure the smooth flow of maritime logistics supply chain amid this ongoing epidemic?
During this period, we increased our capacity by opening up extra yard spaces. We've also opened up the two berths in Tuas Port. We've also recruited more than 3,000 manpower as well, frontline workers who work in our port, to try to play catch up for the companies. And Singapore lining up maritime services for the ports, for the ships that need to call on such ports. We are also looking at digitalization efforts to try to improve the supply chain resilience. You need to do digitalization as well with the shippers, the ship owners, the cargo owners, as well as people, the buyers of the shipment. And that actually cuts across different international organizations. I was told that for a product to move from a factory all the way to home, there's at least 18 touch points. And it would be big companies as well as small, medium enterprises as well. So we need to digitalize the entire chain of it. And
in the implementation of China-Singapore cooperation mechanism in the shipping field, what do you think would be the area where further cooperation can be carried out?
I must say that we've actually made very good progress with China. I'm very glad to be able to work with my China counterpart. We've actually inked a memorandum of understanding in December 2021 on the promotion, acceptance, and the use of electronic certificates for seafarers and ships. We have had very strong relationships in terms of looking at how to digitalize the transfer of the ships and cargoes between our ports. So we are already on trials for the exchange of e-certificates, and the preparations are underway way to do the implementation. And given the high shipping volume between China and Singapore, there's really a lot of value for us to kickstart the process of using e-certificate to facilitate processes such as port clearance, as well as our remote port state control inspection. So we really look forward to continue to advance the digitalization agenda in our collaboration with China.
Thanks all for those great views and thoughts that you share with us today. 也欢迎您继续关注北外滩国际航运论坛高端访谈。